But for right now, the carnage that we're seeing is a deliberate act of people that have gone off the deep end. Every time a random act of violence happens, what happens? The talking heads sit around and talk about, oh, the little machine, the wire was loose, he had this happen, he was abused when he was a child, gun laws. But we're all focused looking back at how it happened. We need to refocus and look ahead to how to prepare for the next incident. Here's my take on it, and I'm not for or against guns. I don't want to get into that nonsensical argument because there's no end to that. It's no end. It's like talking about where God has his origin. It's arguing a circle. You're always going to come back to the same point you started from. Had there been somebody, a marshal, a civilian marshal in that theater, and that should be a mandatory thing anyway, that in a crowd of 50 to 100 people, there should be somebody that is armed. Someone that has years of experience either in law enforcement, an off-duty cop, somebody that should be sitting in the crowd. Had there been someone there that could return fire, and again, I'm not arguing for guns. I'm not saying that, but believe me, when I tell you, and you can't argue this, when that clown threw that first tear canister and came up with that AR-15 and started shooting, had there been someone in that theater who could have pulled that shoulder holster like he had done 1,000 times at the gun range and opened fire, returned fire, and shot this clown after only 5 or 6 shots being discharged by him, the casualties would have been minimum. But again, that's up for discussion, and I don't have time to really argue. I'm just putting things out there. I have the mind of a predator. I'm a predator. I was a very elusive predator. The FBI investigated me for $1 million theft ring. See, I was just a thief, but you have to understand that a predator, whether it be, not all predators are sitting in vans across the street from daycares. They're not all preying on little children. A predator is someone who has an appetite that has to be satisfied. Whether it's a rapist, a murderer, whether it's a thief, whether it's a pedophile, whatever it might be, a predator is always going after one thing: hunger. He's satisfying an appetite. What the appetite was in this nut that shot up Aurora, that theater, I don't know. I'm still trying to figure him out. But first thing we have to do is we have to change the mindset. We have to have a mindset of preparation. We need to start preparing our homes and setting up lines of defense. Restaurants and theaters and places where there are massive amounts of people gathering, crowds of 50 to 100 and more, especially malls. We have to have we have to set up a perimeter on the POEs, the points of entry. A point of entry is a place, a door, a window, where these lunatics have access as well as everybody else. As long as you are able to set up and establish a point of entry, a perimeter, and guard all these places, just like with school shootings. I don't understand. In my website, on that script document, Are You Protected?, I go into explicit detail about how to set up a school perimeter. You have to have doors. Of course, they're fire doors. You have to be able to open from, but at 8:30, these doors should be closed and only access from the inside. Only be able to open from the inside. You need to have monitors on these doors. In such a technological age as we have, knowing that at any moment our children are at risk to some lunatic walking into a school and opening fire, why aren't we setting up perimeters with technology, putting monitors on the doors, motion sensors on the doors, a camera at doors that we can't see that are several hundred feet away from the front office? Monitor these doors. Hire somebody. Oh my God, and people say, well, it costs too much money. Let me tell you how much it costs because that theater wasn't monitored. 12 people and 59 injured. I think that's the end of that argument. I wrote that document when I got out and had it on my website. I sent it to over 500 reporters and news stations. Not one. I only got 3 responses, and they were telling me that they couldn't do anything with it. Because nobody wants to, as far as a reporter and news stations, bad news is still good news. I'm sorry to say that. Bad news is still good news. But I'm telling you this, it's hitting closer and closer to everybody's home. We've got to take time to prepare for the bad guy. You've got to, first of all, believe that there is a bad guy out there, that you can be a victim. You can be a victim. Rarely has anybody even really seen a random act of violence. Just like nobody's really seen a tornado, but we know that they happen. Why? Because every time we can turn on the station after one's passed through, you can look at the 3 or 4 miles of carnage it's inflicted. The same with a violent crime, a violent criminal, a violent person who just takes upon himself to hurt, kill, maim, or steal. You don't never actually see him do it. You just see the carnage that's inflicted after he's gone back up into the cloud. In a tornado, you have a 10,000, 20,000 foot supercell thunderstorm moving across. Tornadoes don't just decide, hey, I'm just going to spawn out of the bottom of this supercell. There's a lot of combination of a lot of elements in there. Hot air rising, taking water vapors up with it. It gets into the upper atmosphere. It freezes. The cold, the water freezes, turns to hail. Then it drops down in. As it's dropping, it turns into golf ball size hail, which causes a washing machine effect in the cloud. Before you know it, you have wind variances, the hot air rising, the cold air falling, and you have a washing machine turning effect, and now you've got a vortex created. And out of that vortex, out of that cloud, the vortex is spawned. So it is with violent people. They don't just wake up one day and say, hey, I'm going to walk over to a theater and kill 12 people and injure 59. I'm just going to go to Columbine and shoot the school up. I'm going to go to Virginia Tech. No, it's a journey. It's a journey to that point in that line in the sand of their minds where they walked with and walked with. 7,000 rounds. This cat was planning this. It was his OCD, his obsessive compulsive disorder. It became his obsession. I'm sure a lot of that ammo and a lot of those incendiary devices were delivered by Federal Express people. Why weren't their flags thrown up? Perhaps maybe because the labeling didn't say, hey, this is an explosive device, but better monitoring on places that sell these things, places that sell ammunition. Let it say on the box, this is ammunition. And when that FedEx guy has made his 35th delivery in 2 months' time, hey, maybe he can be the one that says, hey, something's wrong here. I brought boxes and boxes of ammunition, boxes and boxes of explosive devices, but there's no labeling. You know why? Because nobody wants to get in everybody's business. And so this is the result. I'm not saying become a police state. I'm not saying let's declare martial law. What I am saying is this. We got to prepare ourselves. Our children, our communities are at stake. Our very lives are at stake. We've got to do something besides what we're doing. Every time an incident like this happens, all people do is look back and say, this is what went wrong. Who gives a shit about what went wrong? Let's make plans for what's going to go wrong next. Be prepared for it. Be on the lookout. Set up lines of defense. When you come to my house, you're not just going to walk in my house and kill me. I have lines of defense set up. Once you pass those lines of defense and enter my house, I have the legal right to cut your head off, and I plan on it. If you're in my house uninvited with evil intentions, buddy, you're dead. I'm sorry to say that. I can't own a gun. I don't need a gun. Believe me when I tell you I don't need a gun. I'm a 6 foot, 280-pound tree climber, solid as a rock, strong as a bull, and a master of swords and a master of a lot of weaponry. You come to my house with evil intention, you're going to die. But we don't have that mindset in America. We think the police are protecting us. I got some news for you. When you call the police, by the time the police are called, it's to come count the bodies. It's to come pick up the pieces. I changed the whole course of the banking industry, is what I was told by the FBI. My crimes were unimagined at that time. And that's why I was able to get away with them. And until we get to a point where we talk to experts like me, people who know what they're talking about when it comes to violence and violent crimes, the talking heads are going to continue to talk about what we should have done, how we should have done it, the little machine that went haywire. No. Set up lines of defense. Take care of those points of entry. Do something and prepare, because let me tell you, as God is my witness, I'm telling you right now, there's already somebody gathering up and making a stockpile for the next big turn of events. And these guys, these mass shooters, they're not in a competition. They're lone wolves. Most of them ride alone. They don't envy. They might be a little jealous about the crimes of others, but they don't sit there and talk about crimes when they get around other crazy people. They don't talk about the crimes. No, because it's only in their head. They're lone wolves. Their planning is done alone in solitary. And when they explode and cross that line in the sand of their mind, boom, they commit to it. Boom, it's over. You don't charge a person for thinking about murder. A person is not given the death penalty or convicted for thinking about murder. He's given the death penalty when he commits the act of murder. Once you cross to that line, that line in the sand of your mind, once you cross that line and commit to it, then it's a heyday. See, once they commit to it, they really don't see the end of it. They really don't see the stopping of it. That's why when these guys get fired and go back and kill their bosses and then end up shooting everybody else and then themselves. And people wonder, why didn't they shoot themselves first? Because that wasn't the plan. They wanted to leave this world with an exit, with a bang, making a statement that, hey, you're not just going to do that to me. That's enough for now. I'm at work. I do have a job, so I'm at work. We'll pick this up later.